Welcome to the Horror Mansion, a place where every shadow hides a story, and every door leads to fear.
In the late decades of the 20th century, a shadow crept quietly across the landscapes of Europe and North America. It did not announce itself with armies, banners, or open calls to arms. Instead, it whispered through secret gatherings, veiled rituals, and the words of two men who claimed to hold the keys to cosmic truth. The shadow was the Order of the Solar Temple, and in the span of only a few years, it would rise, flourish, and then consume itself in a blaze of fire and blood. What followed would be one of the most chilling examples of mass death in modern history, a tale of faith turned to fanaticism, of prophecy collapsing into paranoia, and of men, women, and children led to their deaths under the banner of salvation. The Order of the Solar Temple did not appear out of nowhere. Its roots stretched into a Europe restless with spiritual searching in the post-war decades. The mid-20th century had seen a proliferation of secret societies, esoteric orders, and mystical movements that blended ancient myth with modern anxieties. In Switzerland, France, and Belgium, circles devoted to Templar legends, Rosicrucian mysticism, and occult philosophies found a ready audience among those disillusioned with materialism and yearning for transcendence. It was into this environment that Joseph de Mambro and Luc Joret would step, weaving together fragments of old mythologies with their own visions of an approaching apocalypse. Joseph de Mambro was born in 1924 in Pont-Saint-Esprit, France. Trained as a jeweler and watchmaker, his outward life was unremarkable, but from a young age he was drawn to secret orders and mystical teachings. He became involved with a branch of the Rosicrucians, absorbing their blend of esoteric Christianity, ceremonial ritual, and promises of hidden wisdom. Over the years he cultivated an aura of authority, presenting himself as a man who could see into mysteries invisible to others. He had a talent for theater, for orchestrating ceremonies that impressed and overawed. Though never truly charismatic, he projected an air of control that made him appear like a keeper of sacred secrets. Luc Joret, by contrast, was a man of charisma and energy. Born in 1947 in the Belgian Congo, he studied medicine and eventually became a homeopathic doctor. But medicine was only one part of his identity. Joret was a gifted speaker, capable of captivating audiences with his eloquence. He traveled widely, gave lectures on alternative healing, ecology, and spirituality, and gradually gained a following of people seeking answers beyond science and conventional religion. If de Mambro was the hidden master, Joret was the face of inspiration, the one who could draw in crowds and leave them convinced they had glimpsed higher truths. In the early 1980s, the two men crossed paths. They recognized in one another the missing half of their ambitions. De Mambro, the manipulator of ritual and authority, found in Joret the charismatic leader he lacked. Joret, the fiery preacher, found in de Mambro the structure and theatrical ritual needed to anchor his words. Together they founded what would become the Order of the Solar Temple. At first, it appeared like yet another mystical society among many. But beneath its surface, it carried seeds of control, secrecy, and a dangerous apocalyptic vision. The Solar Temple drew heavily on Templar imagery. Its very name evoked the medieval Knights Templar, long associated in legend with hidden treasures, esoteric knowledge, and martyrdom. The order's teachings claimed that members were spiritual descendants of the Templars, guardians of a secret cosmic truth. They borrowed symbols from Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, and other esoteric traditions, creating rituals lit by candles, dressed in robes, filled with chants and sacred objects. Members were told they were part of a cosmic drama, a spiritual elite chosen to guide humanity through coming upheavals. Recruitment was careful and selective. This was no mass movement, it thrived on exclusivity. Potential members were often well-educated, affluent professionals, doctors, lawyers, architects, even celebrities and government officials. The order's appeal lay in offering not only spiritual enlightenment but also a sense of belonging to an elite vanguard. It promised access to hidden wisdom, to cosmic truths denied to the masses. And it flattered recruits with the belief that they were chosen, set apart from the ordinary world. The structure of the group was hierarchical and secretive. At the top stood de Mambro, who styled himself as the undisputed spiritual master. Joret served as the public face, the evangelist. Beneath them were inner circles, each level initiated into deeper layers of secrecy. Members were asked to swear loyalty, to devote their wealth and their time to the order. They paid substantial sums for initiations and ceremonies. The group's finances became entwined with personal fortunes, estates, and properties, creating bonds of obligation that were difficult to sever. From the beginning, the Solar Temple carried an apocalyptic strain. Its teachings warned of ecological catastrophe, social collapse, and spiritual decay. But unlike some doomsday groups that predicted physical survival on Earth, the Solar Temple focused on what it called transit. This was the belief that true members would transcend the earthly plane, journeying spiritually to a new existence on a planet orbiting the star Sirius. There, they would be reborn into a purified world, leaving behind a doomed humanity. It was a vision of death as liberation, cloaked in mysticism and cosmic destiny. For years, the order expanded quietly. It established lodges in Switzerland, France, and Quebec, Canada. Members gathered in rural chalets and hidden meeting places, performing ceremonies that grew ever more elaborate. Dimambro staged miracles to awe his followers, apparitions of glowing beings conjured by stagecraft, voices channeled through hidden speakers, visions produced by sleight of hand. These spectacles convinced members that they were in the presence of higher powers. At the same time, the leadership enforced discipline. Doubts were discouraged, questioning the masters was forbidden, and absolute obedience was expected. Yet beneath the outward confidence, cracks appeared. Financial strains grew as members poured their wealth into the order. Some became disillusioned, leaving quietly, but others remained bound by fear and secrecy. Dimambro himself became increasingly paranoid, convinced that traitors and enemies threatened the purity of the movement. He began to single out dissenters as corrupt, unworthy, or even diabolical. His control over rituals grew more extreme, his visions darker. By the early 1990s, the order was entering a spiral toward destruction. Investigations in Canada and Switzerland were beginning to scrutinize its finances and activities. Some members had gone public with criticisms, revealing the manipulation behind supposed miracles. Jorit, once a confident orator, faced charges of fraud. The aura of invincibility was crumbling. At the same time, global anxieties, fears of environmental collapse, wars, and the approach of the new millennium fueled the cult's apocalyptic urgency. For Dimambro, the solution was not reform, but escape. He began to speak more frequently of transit, of the need to depart this corrupt world and journey to the star Sirius. To him, this was no metaphor, it became a directive. The stage was set for tragedy. In September 1994, a small but chilling sign appeared: the murder of a child. In Canada, a 3-month-old infant, the son of members, was killed in what investigators later determined was a ritual act. Dimambro had declared the child the Antichrist, a danger to the order. The killing revealed the depths of his delusion and the extent of control he wielded. Weeks later, the tragedy escalated into mass death. On October 4, 1994, in Switzerland, fires erupted almost simultaneously in 2 remote villages, Cherry and Granges-sur-Salvan. In a farmhouse in Cherry, police discovered a horrific scene. The building had been set ablaze, and inside they found the charred remains of more than 20 people. The victims, dressed in ceremonial robes, lay arranged in a circle, some with plastic bags over their heads, others with gunshot wounds. Some appeared drugged, incapacitated before the fire consumed them. In Granges-sur-Salvan, another chalet yielded a similar nightmare: dozens more bodies, again in robes, again arranged in ritual fashion. In total, 53 people perished in Switzerland that night, among them men, women, and children. At nearly the same time, in Morin Heights, Quebec, a house linked to the order went up in flames. 5 more bodies were found inside, 2 of them children. The coordination across continents revealed planning, not spontaneity. This was not a single desperate act, it was a synchronized passage into death, orchestrated by the order's leadership. Investigators concluded that many victims were murdered, not voluntary participants. Some were shot in the head. Others were sedated. A few may have chosen to die, but many had no choice. The world reacted with shock. Images of the burned chalets, of rows of bodies in ritual robes, filled newspapers and television screens. How could such a tragedy unfold in the heart of modern Europe and North America? Comparisons were drawn to Jonestown in 1978, when over 900 members of the People's Temple died in Guyana. Yet the Solar Temple deaths carried a different, chilling character, smaller in number but meticulously staged, steeped in occult ritual, and spread across multiple nations. Authorities investigated, but the leaders themselves were already dead. Among the bodies were Jorit and Dimambro, the architect and the preacher. Yet even in death, the movement was not finished. 2 more waves of killings followed, as loyal remnants carried on the belief in transit. In December 1995, in the French Alps, a fire consumed a remote forest clearing near Grenoble. 16 bodies were found, again arranged in a star pattern, again dressed in ceremonial robes. Some had been shot. Investigators discovered that 2 surviving members had set the fires and then killed themselves. The same pattern repeated: ritual, fire, and death as passage. The final chapter came in March 1997 in Saint Casimir, Quebec. In a house belonging to members, police uncovered 5 more dead, including children. Once again, the deaths were staged as a ritual, and once again fire was the instrument. With this, the Solar Temple's campaign of self-destruction came to an end, leaving a toll of 74 dead across 3 countries. The aftermath was grim and bewildering. Families of victims struggled with grief and anger. Survivors who had left the order earlier spoke of manipulation, of financial exploitation, of psychological control. Experts in cult behavior dissected the events, noting the combination of charismatic leadership, apocalyptic belief, and isolation that drove ordinary people to extraordinary tragedy. Governments in Europe and Canada examined their laws, seeking ways to prevent such groups from flourishing unchecked. But the essential mystery remained: how could educated, successful individuals be drawn so deeply into a path that ended in fire and death? The Solar Temple massacre stands today as a warning, a reminder of the dangerous alchemy that can occur when apocalyptic visions are fused with secrecy, ritual, and authoritarian control. It was not the largest cult tragedy, nor the most well-known, but it was one of the most chillingly deliberate. In the quiet chalets of Switzerland, in the forests of France, and in the homes of Quebec, men, women, and children died believing they were voyaging to the stars, while in truth they were consumed by fire on Earth. What remains is not only the horror of their deaths, but also the enduring question of why. Why did belief in cosmic destiny outweigh the instinct for survival? Why did educated minds yield to the manipulations of 2 men? And how many others, across the world, even now stand on similar precipices, vulnerable to the promises of those who claim to hold secret truths? The order of the Solar Temple may have vanished in flames, but the forces that created it, fear, longing, the search for meaning, remain. And so too does the shadow it left behind.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share it with your friends.